After giving up my apartment to move home and help after my mother's stroke, I walked into the living room to find my brother sitting in my old room, moving in. She said I deserved it more, he shrugged. I slept on the couch for 8 months. When I finally moved out, they acted shocked I was leaving. A year later, they were calling me every night after he got arrested and she had no one left. When I think about the moment everything changed, it wasn't the stroke. It was the first time I saw Travis sitting on the edge of my old bed like he owned it. But I should start from the beginning. I had a life. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I was living in Asheville, North Carolina, working full-time at a small pharmacy. I had a 1-bedroom apartment, basic, old carpet, noisy neighbors, but it was quiet inside, and that meant everything to me. I didn't go out much. After my ex moved out, I got used to being alone. I actually liked it. Coming home and knowing no one would be in my space, no one eating my food, no one touching my stuff. I finally had peace. Then Mom had a stroke. I got the call from the hospital around 11 at night. I remember because I was watching some dumb baking show and had just made a cup of tea. The nurse sounded tired but polite. My mother had been brought in after collapsing in the grocery store parking lot. They got to her in time, but she was going to need a lot of help: physical therapy, medication management, help around the house. I was listed as her emergency contact. My first reaction wasn't even hesitation. I just said, "I'll be there." I called out of work the next day and drove to Chattanooga. It's only a few hours, but it felt longer. Every mile I drove, I kept thinking, what if she doesn't make it? What if I'm too late? She was still in the hospital when I got there. Weak, confused, slurring her words a bit. The doctors said she'd pulled through, but it was serious. She couldn't be alone for a while. She'd need constant help, at least for the first few months. I stayed with her in the hospital for 3 days straight. Barely left her side. I brought her water, cleaned her up when the nurses were busy, fed her, brushed her hair. I felt like a child again and a parent all at once. It was overwhelming, but I told myself this was what family does. I decided to move back home. I told my boss I couldn't keep my job. Broke my lease. Sold my furniture or gave it away. Packed the rest into my car and drove back to the house I grew up in. I expected stress. I expected some tension with Travis. But what I didn't expect, what I could never have imagined, was what I walked into that day. Travis was in my room. My old room. The only room in the house with a locking door and any kind of privacy. It still had my bookshelf. My old dresser. My childhood posters were peeling off the wall. He was sitting on the bed, unpacking a duffel bag. I stared at him. "What are you doing?" He looked up, grinned like he didn't notice the bags under my eyes or the complete shock on my face. "Mom said I should take the room," he said, like he was reading a grocery list. "She said I deserved it more." I was too tired to argue. I actually laughed, thinking it was a joke. But it wasn't. He didn't move. He didn't offer to share. He just closed the door behind him like that room had never belonged to me. I turned to Mom, still weak and sitting in her recliner in the living room. "I don't have a room?" I asked. She barely looked at me. "You'll be on the couch. It's just for now." For now turned out to be 8 months. The couch was old. Springs poking through. It creaked every time I moved. I used a folded-up quilt as a mattress topper and another one as a blanket. The only bathroom was in the hall right across from Travis's room, which meant I had 0 privacy, 0 space, and 0 peace. And I was the one taking care of Mom. Every morning, I made her breakfast. Toast, eggs, oatmeal if she could chew. I helped her get dressed, washed her hair, drove her to physical therapy, reminded her to take her pills. I handled her mail, paid her bills, called her doctors. I was her full-time caregiver. Travis? He worked remotely, tech support, he said. He spent hours yelling into a headset. When he wasn't doing that, he was watching sports, eating everything I cooked, and sleeping until noon. He didn't clean. Didn't offer to help. Didn't thank me. Just walked around like the king of the castle while I crouched behind a stack of pillows in the living room, trying to get 5 hours of sleep without being woken up by his bass-thumping music or Mom yelling for help. And any time I brought it up, Mom said, "Travis is under a lot of stress." She said, "You're good with people. You can handle this." She said, "He has more going on." I didn't say it out loud, but the truth hit me hard after a while. She liked him more. Always had. I was the responsible one. The one who stayed out of trouble, kept my head down, did what was needed. He was the golden boy. He could show up late, break promises, take what wasn't his and still get a pat on the back. The final straw came in February. There had been a bad ice storm. Mom had a nurse coming in the morning. I got up early, bundled up, and spent nearly 2 hours clearing the front steps and walkway. I could feel the cold burning through my gloves, the wet seeping into my socks. Meanwhile, Travis stayed inside, warm and dry, laughing into his headset like I didn't exist. When I came inside, soaked and shivering, I saw him in the kitchen eating. He was halfway through the casserole I had made the night before. The one I made specifically for Mom because her appetite was finally starting to come back. "Did you leave any for her?" I asked. He didn't even look guilty. She said she wasn't hungry. I dropped the snow shovel on the floor and just stared at him. He didn't blink. Didn't apologize. Just kept eating. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling, and thought, they don't care about you. Not really. You're just convenient. I packed my things quietly. Left a note that just said, "I can't do this anymore." The next morning, I drove away. I moved to Knoxville. Found a cheap rental above a couple's garage. Started over. Found work again. Built a little life, small, quiet, peaceful. I didn't talk to Mom for a year. I didn't talk to Travis at all. Then the phone calls started. I'll pick up from there next. The first call came late one Sunday night. It was Mom's number. I didn't answer. Then Travis's number popped up a few minutes later. Then again the next day. Then again. I ignored them all. A week later, I got a voicemail. It was Travis. His voice was shaky. I hadn't heard him sound that way since we were kids and he broke Dad's garage window. "Hey, I need to talk to you. It's serious. I messed up. Mom needs help." I deleted the message. That same night, Mom left one too. Her voice was quieter than I remembered. Like she'd shrunk. I know I haven't been fair. I see that now. Travis is in trouble. I don't know what to do. Please. Just call me. I didn't. But I was curious. I had that itch in my chest that wouldn't go away. So I did what anyone would do. I Googled him. His name came up in the local news. Travis Lee indicted for wire fraud and identity theft in ongoing investigation. I read the article 3 times. Turns out he'd been stealing money. From his job. From people he knew. Even from some of Mom's friends. The cops had seized his computer. His trial was coming up. And Mom? Well, now she was alone. Again. I talked to one of her old neighbors a few days later. Miss Brenda. She still sent me Christmas cards every year. "Oh honey, it's bad," she said over the phone. "Your mom's not getting out of bed. She forgets things. She won't let the nurse in half the time." She paused. "I think she thought you'd come back." I didn't say anything. I started sleeping badly again. Tossing and turning. Not because I wanted to help, but because part of me wanted them to suffer more first. I wanted them to really feel what it was like to be alone. To need someone and have no one. A week later, I got a letter. Not an email. A real letter, in shaky handwriting. It was from Mom. I made a lot of mistakes. I know that. I took you for granted. I let Travis push you aside because I was scared of losing both of you. And now I have. I'm sorry. I was a bad mother to you. But I'm still your mother. I just want to hear your voice. That hit me hard. I wasn't expecting that. Not from her. But what really got me? At the bottom of the letter, in tiny writing, she added, I found the quilt you left behind. I sleep with it every night. That quilt. I'd had it since college. Left it behind without thinking. I almost cried when I read that line. But something still held me back. So I did the one thing I hadn't done yet. I called Travis. He picked up on the second ring. Holy shit, he said. You actually called. I read the article, I said flatly. What the hell did you do? He was quiet. Then, I screwed up. I know. I needed money. Mom was always tight with it, even when we needed it. So I figured I'd get ahead. Only it caught up to me. Fast. You stole from her friends? I was gonna pay them back. Shut up, I snapped. You don't pay back identity theft, you idiot. He was silent. Then he said, she needs you. I can't do anything right now. My court date's in 2 weeks. She can't even get herself dressed. And why should I care? I asked. My voice was cold. You took everything from me. You didn't even thank me. You sat in my room while I froze on that couch every damn night. I know, he said. And to his credit, he actually sounded ashamed. I was a dick. I thought you were always the strong one. I thought you could handle it. I didn't think you'd actually leave. That made me laugh. You thought I'd stay forever? She did, he said. I didn't give him an answer that night. I just hung up. And I sat there for a long time, thinking about everything. How much of my life I gave up. How they acted like it was no big deal. How I was supposed to be the strong one just because I always cleaned up their mess. Now they were calling me because there was no one else. But I still hadn't made up my mind. The revenge part? That was still coming. A few days passed. I didn't answer any more calls. I didn't respond to the letter. I didn't say a word to Travis after that phone call. But I started making plans. Not to move back in. Not to take care of anyone. I wanted answers. So I drove back to Chattanooga. Quietly. I didn't tell them I was coming. I pulled into the driveway of the old house, my childhood home, and just sat there for a minute. It looked smaller now. More run down. The siding was dirty. One of the shutters was hanging loose. I knocked. No answer. So I used my key. Still worked. The smell hit me first. Stale air, something rotting in the sink, maybe worse. The whole place was darker than I remembered. Curtains closed. Lights off. I walked in slow. The living room was still cluttered. My old couch was there, the one I spent 8 months on, only now it was covered in laundry and unopened mail. And there she was, Mom. On the recliner. Thinner. Pale. Staring at the TV but not watching it. She turned and looked at me like I was a ghost. You came, she whispered. I didn't move. I'm not staying, I said. She nodded, eyes watering. I didn't think you would. I looked around. The kitchen was a disaster. Dishes piled up. Stains on the floor. And a pile of unpaid bills on the table. I said, "Where's Travis?" "In jail," she said. Didn't show up to court. They came last night. That hit me harder than I expected. I sat down on a chair, not the couch, and looked at her. I read the letter, I said. You're sorry now. But where was this version of you when I needed help? She didn't answer. 8 months on that couch, I said. 8 months cleaning, cooking, driving, begging you to notice what he was doing. And you just let it happen. Tears rolled down her face. I thought you'd never leave me. Maybe that was your mistake, I said. Assuming I'd stay no matter how bad it got. She reached out like she wanted to touch my hand. I didn't move. Then she said something I didn't expect. I put your name on the house. I blinked. What? The deed. After you left. I realized what I did. I changed it. It's in both our names now. Why? Because you earned it, she said. And because I knew, one day, I'd have nothing left to offer but this house. I didn't know what to say. Then I found the papers. On the kitchen table. Deed transfer. Notarized. Dated 3 months ago. Half the house was mine now. I stayed in town for 2 days, not to help but to figure out what I wanted to do. That house? It wasn't a gift. It was a time bomb. Full of mold, unpaid bills, broken memories. But owning half meant I could do something else with it. I went to a lawyer. And I started making moves that would show her what real consequences looked like. Next part coming soon. The lawyer was a quiet man in his 60s, with kind eyes and a voice that didn't push. I told him everything. The couch. The months I spent as a ghost in my own home. The sudden change of heart. The house now half in my name. He didn't blink. What do you want to do with your half? He asked. I stared at the peeling paint on the office wall and said the word slowly. I want out. But I want her to feel it. I want her to know she doesn't control the narrative anymore. He gave a slow nod. We can force a sale. What happens if she doesn't want to sell? Then she either buys you out, or the court orders a sale. You'll get your half of the equity, even if she has to move. I felt a cold tightness in my chest. It wasn't satisfaction. Not yet. But it was the first time in over a year I felt like I was choosing something instead of surviving it. So we filed. 2 weeks later, she got the notice. She called me that same night. I didn't pick up. But her voicemail was frantic. You can't do this. This is my home. I raised you here. This isn't fair. That last part made me laugh out loud. Fair? Fair was giving up my home, my job, my peace for a woman who let her son eat my food, take my room, and treat me like I was the maid. Now it was her turn to lie awake at night, wondering what would happen next. A few days later, Miss Brenda called again. Word had spread. She's a mess, she said. She's crying to everyone about how you're kicking her out. I said nothing. She's telling people you changed. That you turned cold. I finally answered. No, Brenda. I just stopped saying yes. Then something unexpected happened. Travis wrote me. A letter from jail. Pages long. Mostly rambling. He didn't ask for forgiveness, not exactly. But he talked about how everything fell apart. How their lawyer told them the house could be forced into sale. How Mom blamed him now for everything. She's angry at me for pushing you out, he wrote. She says if you had stayed, none of this would have happened. But I know that's a lie. We both know she didn't want you to stay unless it was on her terms. And then, the last line, do what you have to do. Just don't forget who made you sleep on that couch. I read that line over and over. He was right. The house went on the market 2 months later. She fought it every step of the way, but the court didn't care. It was a shared asset. She couldn't afford to buy me out. Her social security check barely covered the bills. I didn't gloat. I didn't show up. I didn't send another letter. I just watched the listing go live. Online photos of my old room, still dusty from when Travis had taken it over. The living room couch, still there like a shrine to everything I let happen. The sale closed in 6 weeks. I got my check in the mail, just under $80,000 after fees and splits. I used it to put a down payment on a place of my own, back in Asheville. No one knew where I went. No one from that house would ever set foot in mine again. It took 6 months for the sale to finish and another 3 before I got fully settled in Asheville again. My new place was smaller than my old apartment, but it was mine. Quiet, clean, and peaceful. One night in December, just before Christmas, I was walking back from the mailbox when I saw another letter with no return address. Inside was a photo. It was Mom. Sitting in a room that wasn't ours. Not the old house. Not even a cheap apartment. It was a care facility. The kind with gray curtains, white walls, and lonely plastic chairs. On the back of the photo was a note. Just 2 lines, written in her shaky handwriting. You got what you wanted. I hope it was worth it. I stared at those words for a long time. I thought maybe I'd feel guilty. Like maybe I'd gone too far. But here's the truth, I didn't feel bad. I didn't want her sitting in that place, alone and bitter. But I didn't want her in my life either. Because here's what people like my mom and Travis never understand: when you treat someone like they're disposable, like their time and pain are free, like their place in your life is something to use and toss away, sometimes they finally leave. And when they do, they don't come back. I framed the check stub from the house sale. Not as a trophy but as a reminder. Of everything I endured. Of the couch. Of the silence. Of how long I waited for someone to choose me back. And when no one did, I chose myself. That was the real revenge. Not the sale. Not the forced move. Not even the silence that followed. The revenge was becoming someone who never had to knock on that door again. And never would.